The closure of the Birch Tree mine was coming for a long time. Vale had signaled years ago the quality of the ore was getting poor, costs were rising to mine it, and nickel prices are at historic lows. Still, the closure hurts.
Well, it's definitely disappointing news for the North and disappointing for those families and employees at the mine there.
Bindle worked at the mine himself and has friends that still do, but says it was generally known Birch Tree was on life support.
It's always sort of been just hanging on, and different different initiatives to keep it going have been successful for a while, but obviously record long low nickel prices like today's market, it just couldn't survive.
Well, this TV report that we're listening to was from May of 2017. At that time, nickel prices were a low note, just under $9,000 per metric ton. And with the impending closure of the Birch Tree mine, Thompson, Manitoba was bracing for hundreds of job losses.
The closure does focus attention on the future, and there are questions about what the Progressive Conservative government is doing about it.
They need to really start coming up with a plan. They've been in government now for a year and a half, whatever it is, and they keep talking about having a plan someday. Well, someday's here.
The government has completed one of two phases of a Look North strategy to rebuild the economy there. The future of the port in Churchill is in doubt. The rail shipments to it are only running once a week, as is, and hundreds of Vale mine-related jobs will be cut next year with the closure of the smelter and refinery in Thompson.
Clearly, there's need for diversification in the economic development aspect in northern Manitoba, and we're really excited to hear what Manitobans have to say on it.
Cullen says the PC government's northern strategy could be ready for the public in the fall. Meantime, he is willing to accept the mayor of Thompson's invitation today to head north and talk about the recent closure. The news doesn't get better for northern Manitoba. The Hudbay 777 mine in Flin Flon is running out of ore and could close in the next 3 years. Sean Cavanaugh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
At its peak in the 1970s, about 20,000 people called Thompson home. Now the population hovers around 13,000. Vale was the northern city's largest employer, so the hit to the local job market was significant. Still, it didn't close completely. As you might know, the company continued operations at two other mines in Thompson. And then came 2020. There was another setback. The Brazilian miner announced plans for a review and restructuring and more layoffs. So last year, after so much uncertainty, when the mine operator announced that it was considering a sale of its assets in northern Manitoba, you can imagine the community reaction was mixed.
Yeah, some workers could maybe get laid off, who knows?
I feel like a lot of people are going to lose their jobs and potentially move out of Thompson, and then our population becomes less and less.
They've laid off all they can, pretty much all they can lay off. It's, I think, probably close to 35% contract workers anyway. So, no, I don't think that's an issue. I don't think they're going to just shut it down.
But the last few months have brought new hope for the North. A plan to expand the Port of Churchill has captured Ottawa's attention and seems to be getting some traction. In late February, Mark Carney's government announced it's undertaking a market-sounding study on how rail, port, and other improvements near the town might attract more business from companies in the grain and mining sectors. And then that same week, an update for Thompson. I'm Marcy Marcusa, and this is Manitoba, where northern cities could play a key role in building a better economic future for the country.
Thursday was a good day in Thompson, Manitoba. Vale, the company that owns the city's nickel mine, has entered into a partnership with 3 other groups, including the Canada Growth Fund. Toronto-based X0 will partner with the fund, New York-based Orion Resource Partners, and Vale to invest in the mine. Up to $280 million in investment is part of the deal. There aren't any job cuts expected. In fact, the new owners say they plan to double production in the next 5 years and hire more staff. The community was worried last year when Vale announced it was holding a strategic review of its operations. Many thought it would sell or even close the mine. We spoke with United Steelworkers local president Warren Lukey. He said the deal is good for the workers.
A lot of people are starting to wonder what they should do if the mine life doesn't extend here. They got to make some decisions whether to stay, whether to start looking for another job. So with this announcement, there's a promise to go and do the development work that'll see the deeper ore body getting mined, which means work for everybody.
The deal is not fully done yet, but it is expected to be done by the end of this year. Eric Westaver, CBC News, Flin Flon.
For his part, Premier Wab Kinew says that this deal is the latest part in what's becoming a good news story for the province's north.
Well, I think there's great miners in Thompson. You have people who know what they're doing. You have a large amount of nickel and other metals there, and you have a lot of know-how in the region. So this is an attractive proposition. When you look at commodity prices globally, there always is that super cycle that they talk about. So buying low and selling high is that age-old recipe for success in business. So I think some smart folks have put together a deal here that allows them to get in on the Thompson mining activity while nickel prices are down, and eventually when that super cycle bounces back and commodity prices go up again in the future, they'll make money off of it. The Thompson community will be able to still see their housing values and incomes maintained, and of course, as the province, having that northern hub of Thompson with vitality and jobs and work is just so important. So it's a real good news story.
But what about the local perspective? My CBC colleague, Corey Funk, spoke with Thompson Mayor Colleen Smook the day after this announcement. She shared what the decision to keep the mine open means for her community and also her initial reaction to the news.
I was really happy. I knew there would be a deal of some kind, and to hear this and to be at that news conference yesterday and just see the commitment to our community and basically to the province, and the fact that the province and the federal government have worked very hard with us to make this deal happen. It's just great news, because when Thompson prospers, the whole province prospers, because a lot of tax dollars go out of these nickel mines. And like Premier Kinew said yesterday, buy low. The prices may not be great, but I've been in Thompson for coming 55 years, and I've seen that cycle up and down. So it's only not likely a short time now till those commodity prices and the critical mineral prices go up. We're right in a gray area. We're right in that shipping lane to Churchill. So we're part of the federal government's projects right now. So I can only see great things for the whole province because of this announcement.
So what does this investment, in particular mean for Thompson? Does it mean it's just back to business as usual, the mine just keeps going? Or is there going to be a market improvement, more jobs? Or where do you see, the mine going for the community?
Based on what we've been told, I could see definitely more jobs. The plan is to get the mine, when the prices are low and in doubt of selling, there's not very much money put into the mine itself, but I can see there's going to be more development, upgrades of the systems and that to make us definitely more competitive in the mining world.
So yeah, right now, for people wondering, so 700 staff are employed there, 300 contractors work there right now. Leading up to this deal, what was the feeling in Thompson? As things were kind of in flux in terms of jobs and the economy. And how does that contrast to how you're feeling now?
Basically, when they first announced it a year ago, I had told them our biggest fear was we were going to lose the good people that working at the mine, the trades, the laborers, the miners, because they don't sit around. They can get a job anywhere. And so my fear was if we didn't get a deal, or at least they knew there was a deal being worked on, that they'd be looking for jobs elsewhere. That's what happened when we had some downturns in the past. So Definitely, I know a year almost seems like a long time, but it's not really. And we've kept most of our people here, and there's so many young people that between us and our First Nations, our Indigenous people around, that we have a lot of training to do to get our labor force up and running so we can have exactly what the mine needs. And when the mine runs well, the service industry, all the other industries, the businesses, the economic development in Thompson, it definitely happens. So I'm very excited after this announcement yesterday.
Has there been any numbers sent your way about, potential of how many more jobs could come to Thompson because of this deal?
We heard the word yesterday passed around that double within 5 years.
Wow.
So that's definitely getting back up to the numbers that we used to be. That's definitely great for everybody.
Nickel still finite resources, and as we've already discussed, subject to price fluctuations. How are you hoping to seize this moment in the next few years, assuming this deal does bring a little bit more prosperity to the town, to ensure that the city is set up for success in the long term if anything does happen to the nickel mine, or if the nickel eventually runs out?
Well, we definitely haven't been sitting still waiting for the nickel mine. We've got a new airport, that's about to open. So it's been business as usual. Our schools have been doing their upgrades to make sure, that they're upgraded for all the students and stuff that we had. Basically, we've got a new development, 88-acre development. It's going to have housing, economic businesses and that. So we haven't stood still waiting for this deal, as we knew something was going to happen. You can't leave all this great nickel in the ground. So it was only a matter of time, and all the stars aligned, and yesterday was the announcement.
Could you see one day when mining isn't the main economic driver of Thompson? Where you've diversified enough where you could depend on other means?
Well, it definitely could be at some point, but as I say, we're in the hub for 65,000 plus. We're the main hub on the way to Churchill. Basically, if we could live without the mine, it would be a totally different lifestyle. But definitely, Thompson will always be here in one way or another. But like I said, with the mine, it brings a lot more prosperity, a lot more high-paying jobs. So we can, we just have to change our way of thinking. Thompson will always be here and always be prosperous in its own.
As you've been hearing, back to the political perspective here, the Premier and the Mayor maintain this as a win for Thompson. But zooming out, what does the new partnership agreement mean for the province and the country as a whole? Joe Mazumdar is an analyst and editor of Exploration Insights. Now, he spoke with CBC's Julie Buckingham, and he said that Ottawa's involvement is a bid from the government to secure the supply chain by backing domestic nickel production.
I mean, we have quite the endowment. Our issues are infrastructure, labor costs, because our mines, especially on the nickel side, are on the what we call the third quartile of costs. We're on the higher end. And so when the nickel price goes down, these are the operations that make the least money. And that's probably underpins some of Vale's decision. With respect to Canada, I mean, we're looking at major projects office going not only into LNG, but also into mining projects. And I think when you look at projects, most of these development projects require multi-billions of dollars, probably a couple of years at least of timeline to get into production. Whereas here you have a producing mine that requires, probably some tender loving care to keep going.
Do you see more projects like this being developed here in Manitoba?
I mean, Thompson obviously doesn't need much development because it's already operating. I think the major projects office, the other nickel project that they selected was in Ontario, and that was Crawford. I don't know of a nickel project in Manitoba that's been selected under the major projects office.
Does this change how other countries might look at provinces like Manitoba for minerals and other resources?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Canada, which you can't take away, is I mean, we have a lot of other areas, like I was saying, like you're dealing with China, Russia, or Indonesia with a lot more geopolitical risk than a stable source of supply from Canada, which should be something everybody should consider. Unfortunately, right now with the Canadian-U.S. relationships, I don't know how far that goes into the U.S. supply chain, but I know the Canadian administration, sorry, the Canadian government is looking towards Europe. And so the issue with Thompson Creek and a lot of mines in Canada, we produce an intermediate product, usually a concentrate, which has to be smelted and refined further to get the metal. And if we can get more of that produced, that would probably be better for us to supply more of the end product to the ultimate manufacturers and end users. Right now, I believe the smelter at Thompson was shut down, I think around 2018 or something like that. And so all of it is going to the Sudbury operations to be smelted right now. So processing is a big deal in critical minerals just as much as the mining part.
Less than a minute remaining, about 40 seconds or so here. And I'm wondering, how key is it that two private industry partners are part of this along with Ottawa?
Yeah, well, like I said, like a lot of the private equity groups that have been funded, by their own investors, but also have tapped sovereign wealth funds, are working with governments and international agencies like the International Finance Corporation, the Defense Department of the U.S., and right now with the Growth Fund of Canada in terms of filtering projects and looking for those to advance. Their preference is usually production over development. But I have seen, Orion, which is in this project right now, they're also looking at a development project in Brazil. So nickel is something that they are interested in.
Well, that's it for this week on This is Manitoba. Hopefully it made sense, maybe even 5 cents a nickel. Thanks for being with us. I'm Marcy Marcusa. We'll be back next Wednesday with another new podcast.